We just got one. Miami Hurricanes have just landed a verbal commit from one of the top linebackers in America who happens to play for one of the best high school football teams in the country. For the 941 to the 305, Gavin Nix. Welcome to the U.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's a big-time get for the Miami Hurricanes football team. Big-time get for all the fans out there, for the entire staff, from Mario Cristobal to Derek Nicholson, Miami linebackers coach. We will talk about him and everyone in that support staff. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, writer for allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen or your second listen today. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll talk about where Miami's recruiting class of 2025 now ranks after adding a big-time linebacker. Talk about who might be next because, folks, there's more coming this week. I'm warning you. I'm telling you right now, there is more coming this week. Don't make too many, holiday week plans because you're going to want to be locked in to Locked On Canes. And yes, we're going to talk about what this latest verbal commit brings to the table. Miami lands four-star linebacker Gavin Nix out of IMG Academy, Bradenton, Florida, big-time boarding school, big boy program. This is a big-time get. 6 foot tall, 225 pounds. So Nix, he chooses Miami over the other two in his top three. Of course, there were a ton of schools who wanted Gavin Nix, but it came down in the end to Miami versus Florida State and Oregon. Most recent visit was to Florida State. He visited Oregon after Miami. Gavin Nix was the captain of IMG Academy's defense last year. Played in 8 games last season, recording 42 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hurries, and a sack. That was in his junior season of high school. He's got the senior season coming up. I mentioned the other places he visited. He made his official visit to Miami back on June 7th. Hurricanes built some momentum after that visit, probably had some momentum before the visit, but built a lot of it during the visit, carried that throughout the month of June. Of course, he referred to his Miami visit almost a month ago as a game changer. He then visited Oregon on the 14th, FSU on the 21st. And I know the Florida State fans are not too happy to hear that Nix has officially chosen Miami. Obviously, this is a verbal commitment. Miami's got to get this one over the finish line on National Signing Day, but it's great to be a Miami Hurricane right now, my friends. And, he made those official visits to Oregon and FSU, but if you include all the unofficials, my understanding is that Gavin Nix visited Miami more times than he visited FSU and Oregon combined. Miami staff got this player on campus a lot. We use that R word a lot when we talk recruiting. The R word is relationships. Mario Cristobal, Derek Nicholson, Dennis Smith, the entire staff at Miami have been building that relationship with Nix, really making Miami feel like a family for him and a special landing spot for him. Gavin Nix is the 11th ranked linebacker in the class of 2025 per 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings. Adding Nix to Miami, we'll talk a little bit more about this throughout the show, but Miami moves up 3 spots in class of 2025 recruiting. We'll tell you where they stand in a minute. Hurricanes now have 3 excellent linebackers committed, and this is why I wanted to talk about the great job that Derek Nicholson is doing as the linebackers coach and the primary recruiter for all of these players. So you've got Elijah Melendez, Ezekiel Marcelin on board, Melendez from Osceola in Kissimmee, Marcelin from Miami Central, which is a very important pipeline. And then you add Gavin Nix to that list, all have incredible range and quickness on the field. Got a couple scouting reports for you guys on Gavin Nix. First, this was from our pal who joined us. He joins us every week, but he joined us this morning on Locked On Canes. Let's hear the Gavin Nix scouting report from our own recruiting overlord, Brian Smith.
What is Miami getting? They're getting a middle linebacker that can actually cover in space and is going to come in physically ready to place. 225, 230. Gavin is an old school linebacker in the box, but he has the ability to run and cover well, and he's already in the shape. He plays at IMG. He understands the coverage concepts and stuff a lot more than a lot of high school kids do. I think Nicholson's going to like having him as a freshman. Not only they're going to have a special team, but like I bet he plays some next year. Remember, Maui Noah is going to leave. He's an All-American candidate this year. It's going to be a big void. I'm not saying they won't go get a transfer or something, but like Nix will help in some capacity. He's got that much talent. And I love watching him play because he can really hit. And he doesn't care where he's going. It's going to come with a big bell ringing at the end of it. So old school Miami linebacker.
Big bell ringing. And you heard it, among other things there from the Overlord. Physical maturity. It's one of the things that Nix is going to bring to the table. And remember, he's not going to be on Miami, obviously, this season. Final high school year will be arriving in 2025. And like Brian pointed out, Miami's going to have good linebackers on the roster then, but Kiko Maui Noah will not be one of those because he will be out of eligibility and off to the NFL by 2025. And you heard it there from Brian that he feels like Gavin Nix will be physically mature enough. He's heading into his senior year of high school. He's 225 pounds already. He's probably going to be a little bit heavier than that and more chiseled and physically ready by 2025. So this is someone who could potentially help Miami right away, not only on special teams, but on defense. So you like to hear that. Also got a scouting report. I'll read this one to you on Gavin Nix, newest Miami Hurricanes verbal commit from the other overlord, Larry Blustein, who has scouted not only every player in the state of Florida, but probably scouted every high school player in the country at some point. But Blustein was beaming about Nix, and he texted me the following scouting report on linebacker Gavin Nix. He says, quote, a big-time talent who has been playing at a high level for several years, very high football IQ, someone who combines athleticism with physical play. He is indeed someone you need to take the program to the next level. One of the very few IMG players who is from the state of Florida. Yeah, so Nix, I mentioned at the beginning, the area code being 941. That's the area code in Bradenton. He's from, I think, the Orlando area originally, so not far away from Bradenton, not all that far away from Miami. Going to be easy for the family to come to games. It seems like a great family, by the way, for Gavin Nix. His father seems like a great gentleman. In fact, I can announce this now, my friends. Gavin Nix just committed to Miami tonight. Gavin Nix is going to join the show tomorrow night. We're going to have a special evening episode. It probably will be our second episode of the day because I got nothing else to do in the morning outside of bringing you guys hopefully great content, but we're definitely going to have great content in the evening tomorrow because newest Miami Hurricanes verbal commit, 4-star linebacker Gavin Nix is going to join us right here tomorrow night on Locked On Canes. I cannot be happier to announce that. I cannot wait to get him on the show. So that's something you guys have to stay tuned for. And speaking of staying tuned, we're not done yet on this new episode of Locked On Canes. We're only getting started. We're going to talk about where Miami's recruiting class now ranks after adding Gavin Nix and who could be next. Because I don't think Miami is finished yet this week. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I already know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. Guys, there are so many opportunities out there to make money. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to end. But as the playoffs have now winded down in the NBA and NHL, we get fewer games. The sports aren't sportsing like I want them to, but FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. Not to mention, folks, there's baseball going on. I'm a big soccer fan, so I'm really happy that Copa America and the Euro 2024 are both going on. So I'm not hurting for things to wager on, and you can get it all on FanDuel. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you so much for making this special emergency breaking news episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Miami just landed a verbal commitment from 2025 4-star linebacker Gavin Nix, who becomes the 15th verbal commitment to the Miami Hurricanes. So what Miami now has locked in for the class of 2025, Gavin Nix joins 4-star tight end Brock Schott, 4-star running back Gerard Pringle, 4-star defensive back Amari Wallace, 4-star defensive back Chris Ewald. And by the way, Wallace and Ewald both have committed within the past week and a half. There's been a barrage of commits in recent days. 4-star tight end Luca Gilbert, who's been committed since April. 3-star linebacker Ezekiel Marcelin. And of course, Nix is going to be in that same linebacker room. Marcelin committed a little over a week ago. Another linebacker, 4-star Elijah Melendez, who's another Central Florida player. And by the way, let me talk about the dimensions for these other linebackers. Marcelin, 6 foot, about 200 pounds now. Melendez, 6'2", 225. You add Nix at 6 foot, 225 to that group. Also committed to Miami within the past several days, about 4 or 5 days ago, Herbert Scroggins, 3-star edge rusher out of Savannah, Georgia. You got 3-star cornerback Timothy Merritt. 24/7 has Luke Nickel as a 4-star quarterback. Every other recruiting service is 24/7 has him at 3 stars, Nickel. Every other recruiting service has him at 4 stars. You've got interior offensive lineman Max Buchanan, offensive tackle Demetrius Campbell, interior offensive lineman TK Mew, and offensive tackle Jaden Wilkerson. So you throw Gavin Nix into that mix. Ooh, see what I did there? And you've got now 15 verbal commits for the Miami Hurricanes. And Miami, in landing Nix, has risen from right before he committed, the 18th ranked class of 2025, according to 24/7 Sports Composite. In landing Gavin Nix moves Miami up 3 spots. Not too shabby for one player. You land a player, you move up 3 spots. So Miami now sits behind Ohio State at number 1. They've been crushing it in this cycle. So is Alabama. Obviously, Bama has a lot of players to replace because they lost a bunch of guys in the portal after Saban left. But Bama at number 2, Georgia at number 3, Notre Dame 4, Oregon 5th. Lanning's been crushing it lately. Texas A&M at number 6, Oklahoma at 7. Oklahoma, by the way, just landed Cortez Mills, wide receiver out of Homestead. So that's a huge get for OU out of Miami's backyard. Penn State ranks 8th in recruiting. Clemson ranks 9th now. LSU 10th. Tennessee 11th. Rutgers 12th. Auburn 13th. TCU 14th. And Miami jumps in front of Wisconsin, Texas, and Michigan in landing 4-star linebacker Gavin Nix. So that's where Miami now stands. Get your popcorn ready for the rest of the week. And there might even be more coming this week than I'm even talking about, because I've seen some folks out there. It might have been somebody from Caneville was saying, Miami's going to go 4 for 4. I'm not even sure who the 4th would be. I can speculate on that, and I will in a second. But Miami's already gone 1 for 1, landing Gavin Nix. On Wednesday night, we are expecting. I've been wrong before. I don't think I'm wrong about this one. I am expecting, hoping for on Wednesday night, a verbal commitment from class of 2026 quarterback, and an excellent one, Dereon Coleman, another Central Florida player out of Jones High School in Orlando. So I feel very good about where Miami's been trending. And I know 2026 feels like a long way away, but so many of the top 2026 quarterbacks are already coming off the board. Miami needs to get theirs. I believe they're going to a couple nights from now, and I believe Dereon Coleman is going to be an excellent player at the college level. So I'm looking forward to that, assuming he commits to Miami on Wednesday. On Thursday, we are crossing my fingers for those who are listening to the audio version. We are hoping for a commitment on Thursday, Independence Day, from Hylton Drake Stubbs, 4-star, borderline 5-star safety out of Mandarin High School. Excellent program in Jacksonville, Florida. He was committed to USC for several months, recently decommitted, came down to Miami versus Florida. Miami's the one who's been trending the most strongly this past week with Drake Stubbs. He's announcing on Thursday. I like the way Miami's trending for him. Hopefully they get that over the finish line. So that would be 3 for 3 right there. I wonder if the 4th, if there is a 4th this week, could be SJ Alofaituli, who's my favorite offensive lineman in the class. I love that dude. Could be the next great center at the University of Miami. I don't exactly know when he's announcing. Maybe he will do it this week. I don't think he's set out a date yet on when he plans to do that, but Miami has become the trending leader for Alofaituli, including Steve Wiltfong dropping a fong bong this week for Miami to land him. So maybe that, I don't know when he's coming off the board, but maybe we'll be getting some good news on that one soon. So, if Miami, obviously Coleman would not affect this year's class, but the other 3 would. If Miami can land a couple more of these top players this week, you could be looking at potentially being in the top 10 recruiting by the end of the week. I say potentially because I can't really run the number. Like, I like to use that 24/7 sports recruiting calculator, which you can crunch the numbers of, hey, if you add this player, what would you be ranked? But I don't know for sure what other schools are going to be landing this week. So if other teams that are in the top 10 land some big time gets, that'll obviously, I don't know where all the chips are going to fall, but yeah, if you land a few of these players that I talked about, Miami could very well be a top 10 recruiting program in 2025 by the end of the week. So we'll be sticking around to see how all that plays out. So excellent player. Miami just landed tonight, Gavin Nix, and we're going to officially welcome him to the Miami family tomorrow. Gavin Nix is going to be joining us tomorrow night. It'll be an evening episode of Locked On Canes, so you want to tune in for that. Spoiler alert, he's an awesome young man, comes from a tremendous family, and he loves football. I know he spends a lot of time working out, so he's going to make some time for us either after a workout or between workouts, Gavin Nix, to talk to us. And I think he's going to be chomping at the bit to be a Miami Hurricane come 2025. So thank you guys so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Let's all welcome Gavin Nix to the U, and we will talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.